Hey everyone, my name is Grace and welcome to Grace Adventures. Today's video is gonna be an opinionated one, but something I have been thinking about for a while. My goal this year in 2025 was to visit one theme park a week. Busch Gardens Tampa is my home theme park, so I have been frequenting there a lot. Going there often means immersing myself in all of the lands, the offerings, and pretty much everything Busch Gardens has to offer. So through the eyes of someone who visits Busch Gardens all the time and through the lens of history, let me tell you guys why the Egypt region at Busch Gardens Tampa is one of the best themed lands in the entire park. Let's begin. Busch Gardens first opened as a bird garden and brewery tour for Anheuser-Busch, which opened on June 1st, 1959. The oldest building a part of Busch Gardens today still is the Hospitality House, aka the modern day Springs Tap Room, and the birds still make a huge appearance within the park. An opening day main attraction that is defunct now is called Dwarf Village. This was a part of the park for smaller kids to enjoy. I would say this was one of the first lightly themed areas alongside the bird gardens of today. Another big addition of Busch Gardens was built in the summer of 1970 and it was called Bomba. Bomba was a part of the park expansion. It was more like a traditional zoo with close encounters with animals. As Busch Gardens evolved and grew bigger, getting new attractions, I wouldn't even say it received any major theming until the spring of 1974. I say that because this is the first time on their maps that they explicitly show off the lands and attractions and separate them in various colors. Stanleyville is also first introduced in the early 1970s, including a train with the Bomba area being renamed to Nairobi because of the expanding animal nursery, and there was a train from Nairobi to the Stanleyville station. This was the first start of the Dark Continent era from 1975 to 1989. A time when Busch Gardens chose to distinguish themselves from other notable attractions in the same area. The African Velvet was renamed to the Serengeti Plain, and the Marrakesh is also renamed to Morocco. There wasn't another major addition made to a land until 1980 when the Timbuktu area opened along with the Congo area in 1982. Then in 1996, the Egypt section of the park opened up alongside the Land of the Dragons Kids area, replacing Dwarf Village. And in 1997, the Edge of Africa was another added area located near the Serengeti Plain. The last major upgrades in terms of the themed areas that happened in the park were that in 2008. Jambalaya opened up in between the Congo and Stanleyville, and then Timbuktu was renamed to Pantopia in 2014. Besides the adding and taking away of attractions, a lot of these areas have still remained the same. Anheuser-Busch was the owner of Busch Gardens Tampa until they sold it and its other parks in 2009 to the private equity firm Blackstone Group. Since the change in under new leadership, aka United Parks and Entertainment, the vibe has shifted from less beer, Clydesdale, and educational attractions to more festivals, coasters, and family-oriented theming. And you can especially see that with the additions of Phoenix Rising, Cobra's Curse, food and wine festivals, and revamping Jambalaya in the coming spring of 2025. And a lot more activities that occur seasonally at the park. Today, Busch Gardens Tampa has 11 different regions that you can immerse yourselves in. When thinking about my opinion about why Egypt is the best themed area, I took into consideration what each area has to offer in terms of their theming and how they have evolved over the history in the park's existence. I could care less about the amount of attractions in one area, but how the land makes you feel when you enter it, like how Marvel Superhero Island or Jurassic Park makes you feel. I'm gonna try my best to describe each area in less than one sentence, so here we go. Morocco is inspired by North African architecture and markets featuring shops, eateries, and live entertainment. Half of the Morocco-themed area has been taken over by Ghawazi and also serves as the port of entry type region. Egypt is themed around ancient Egyptian ruins and archaeology, home to thrill rides themed around ancient Egyptian architecture and mythology. Congo is a vibrant jungle setting with adventurous rides and lush landscapes. Pantopia is a whimsical, colorful village inspired by global travel and storytelling, featuring unique attractions and food options. Stanleyville is reminiscent of a remote African outpost known for thrilling water rides and scenic views. Nairobi is an animal-centric area themed around African wildlife conservation and exploration. Jungalaya is an immersive rainforest environment showcasing exotic animals. Sesame Street Safari of Fun is a playful, kid-friendly area themed to Sesame Street with rides, shows, and character meet and greets. Edge of Africa is a walkthrough safari experience themed as an African village with close-up animal encounters and naturalistic habitats. Serengeti Plain is an expansive open savanna inspired by the African Serengeti, featuring free-roaming herds of exotic animals. And finally, the bird gardens are a lush tropical environment dedicated to the vibrant bird species and a tranquil garden. When trying to find some of the best themed areas at Busch Gardens, the big ones that popped into my head were Pantopia and Egypt. If you have been to the parks your whole life like me, or you just frequent them once in a while, you'll understand why. It's not like the other areas are themed, but these two areas are a lot more distinct than the rest. I feel like those two are the big heavy hitters when it comes to theming, but they also have their flaws. I'll start with what I think of Timbuktu. Pantopia. Pantopia has so much to offer in terms of landmass compared to Egypt, which means they have many more attractions. Like I said earlier, I'm not trying to judge the number of attractions rather than how the land makes you feel when you're immersed in it. Entering Pantopia, you see this colorful, whimsical village with exterior decor. Comparing to Timbuktu, it was a very earthy and had muted tones of color, and Timbuktu was inspired to be like a desert marketplace. Both Timbuktu and the Pantopia of today have always been the more family-oriented part of the park. In terms of the attractions that have come and gone with Timbuktu, it had the Crazy Camel, Bush Flyers, Desert Runners, Sandstorm, Kiddie Train, and maybe a bit more extreme with the Phoenix, Sand Serpent, and Scorpion. The Pantopia of today hosts Falcon's Fury, Phoenix Rising, and various other things carried along with the re-theme, like Dragonfire Grill and Pub, Twisted Tales Pretzels, the Grand Caravan Carousel, the Pantopia Theater, and the Painted Camel Bazaar Gift Shop. With the slow timeline of the re-theme, attractions like Scorpion were technically a part of Pantopia as well. When Timbuktu changed to Pantopia in 2014, I thought they were just brightening up the Timbuktu area, not doing an overhaul re-theme. Without doing research, Pantopia being present in the park didn't make sense compared to Timbuktu. The one great thing about Busch Gardens theming is that while the park has its own distinct identity, its design and details still make it easy to understand the themes through context clues. Plus, much of it connects to what you've learned in school about animals, different cultures, and countries. Before actually comprehending what Timbuktu was, I learned about Timbuktu playing Pop Tropica and then again in world history because it was a real ancient city. Most of the other areas in the park are also based on real places like the Congo, Egypt, Edge of Africa, and Nairobi. It's really bad when I had to dig for the answer to what Pantopia even means. I stated earlier what the area of the park is, but I wouldn't have even been able to tell you from the top of my head if I didn't look into it first. First off, what is the meaning of Pantopia? According to Brian Morrow, it's a mix of pan, the word for earth, continent, to, and utopia, the legendary perfect place, so it's really a place of bliss and unification. Okay, I get it, and what Morrow said makes sense. But it's the fact that you have to research the meaning rather than just understanding it right from the get-go. I work in communications and marketing, and the way I communicate to people obviously depends on the target audience. But what I have in common with everyone, regardless of the target audience characteristics, is that I treat them like they don't know anything. And for example, what I mean by that is that even without prior knowledge, I could tell Timbuktu felt like an ancient city because of the surrounding architecture and the muted colors. Experiencing the surrounding area made it feel like I was in the Timbuktu marketplace. That is why when you enter non-IP areas in Universal or Disney parks like Dinoland USA or Port of Entry, you understand what is being communicated to you visually. The Port of Entry represents the beginning of an adventure and preparation as you visit different islands, while Dinoland USA is all about dinosaurs. But all that is being communicated to the audience is that this is a colorful place. One issue is that they used the previous architecture from Timbuktu and just painted over it with some colorful colors and graphics. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but I feel like it hindered what Pantopia could have been if the building style was less rough, it felt more modern, and it was a lot smoother of a texture. Out of all the areas in the park, this is the one that's getting the most attention at the moment. With the addition of Phoenix Rising in 2024, the subtraction of Scorpion, and the ongoing construction and upkeep, there are still a lot of moving parts in Pantopia. One interesting thing is that I found that Akbar is currently present in the park in Egypt and now in Pantopia. Akbar's Adventure Tours was a ride located in the Egypt area of the park, operating from 1998 to 2007. It opened as a motion simulator ride starring Martin Short as Akbar, taking you on an entertaining tour of Egypt. I'll talk more about him when discussing the Egypt area. Today in Pantopia, however, there are visual reminders of Akbar. His posters can be found in the Painted Camel Bazaar rather than in Egypt. But why is that? Without watching this video, my opinion on Akbar in Pantopia wouldn't have been as open.
So now we're actually inside of the Painted Camel Bazaar. This is the main retail venue of Pantopia, and it's actually run by Akbar. Outside sign of the Painted Camel Bazaar is a camel that Akbar used to transport goods from around the world to here to resell to the travelers of Pantopia and the visitors of Pantopia. And it's called Painted Camel because Akbar liked to drape his camel with various cloths and fabric from around the world. So people would say, there goes that shiny painted camel again. So that's why it's called the Painted Camel. And then Akbar had a really good little primate monkey friend that was very naughty and mischievous, who would often steal the keys from around Pantopia and bring them back here to the store. So the sign, you'll see the Painted Camel draped in his fabric with a monkey on top holding a key. And that is the story of the Painted Camel Bazaar. So Akbar kind of gave up on this tourism business he had down there with the tours he was selling. He's shut that business down and now he's reopened his office and shop here. Of what we wanted the store to look and feel like. And so for a year, our visual teams and our creative teams and our prop master have been selecting props from around the world to fill the store up. And these props will be used as the retail fixtures as well. So it's a really new way of really looking at retail for us and something that our guests here at Busch Gardens Tampa have not seen before.
Personally, I think Akbar should have remained in Egypt because of its history there. However, revamping it in Pantopia, especially in the gift shop, introduced another great Busch Gardens Easter egg to talk about in the future. But the backstory behind his posters being here makes a lot more sense. The big heavy hitting attraction in this area now is Phoenix Rising. Keeping with the family theme, Phoenix Rising opened in the summer of 2024 as a family inverted coaster manufactured by B&M. From general speculation, as you're going through the ride, I saw it as if we were putting ourselves in the shoes of the Phoenix or flying with it. There is some onboard audio featuring Phoenix sounds like cawing depending on which Phoenix you get. So you could tell Busch Gardens creatives were trying their best to make something out of nothing. And honestly, I applaud all parks that don't use and abuse IPs the way Disney does to their parks. The confusing part was when riding it the first couple of times is that in the station, there is an LED screen that displays an animated Phoenix that flies around as the coaster starts and ends. Each time the coaster dispatches, a new Phoenix appears. Terra, protector of the rainforest, Ignis, protector of the desert realm, Glacius, protector of the mountaintops and glaciers, and Aqua, protector of the ocean realm. You wouldn't know about these phoenixes unless you read the banners of the phoenixes before entering the ride. So I wish they were a bit more prevalent in the queue rather than just random decorations in the queue line where we just like sit next to them. It's kind of confusing what story they are trying to communicate to us. Regardless of what you think about Phoenix Rising, I would say this is something Pantopia has needed in terms of ride experience. With the colorful theming Pantopia has going on, along with keeping it family friendly, this is the perfect coaster. And regardless of what you think about Scorpion's closure, as sad as I am to say it, it honestly needed to happen because of this retheme. As much as I love a classic Schwarzkopf, it's outdated for that area. You can tell they tried to make it blend in better with Pantopia with the surrounding area because they did repaint the sign. Overall, Pantopia is a huge area of land with lots of things to do. From my observations, this was just a general take about Pantopia's theming. Overall, Pantopia is a great, vibrant, and unique themed area. The only thing is knowing and understanding how Pantopia came to be. Like I said earlier, it's easy to say I knew what Timbuktu was because of my prior knowledge of it outside of the park. Pantopia is a great themed area. I just think it takes a couple of visits to understand what the meaning of this land is. Things I feel are overlooked are the things like the symbolism with the animals and the keys. I love theme park history and I have a special appreciation for Timbuktu because I grew up riding Scorpion, Cheetah Chase, Sandstorm, Phoenix, and a lot of other flat rides in that area. Personally, I don't think every single thing in a theme park is meant to stay the same forever. You have to consider your future audiences and how you want to define your identity as a company. The Pantopia retheme is a great example of this. It was a huge risk as nothing on the scale has ever been done before for them. After researching Pantopia extensively though, I've come to appreciate what Busch Gardens' creative team envisioned for it. It's also one of the most beautiful lands in the park, and every time I enter it, it does make me very happy. But I will tell you guys why this land is secondary compared to what Egypt has to offer in terms of their theming. Egypt is not my favorite area in the park just because the best roller coaster and my favorite roller coaster personally, Montu, is located there. But because of how well designed this land is. Montu being my favorite roller coaster is because of the theming. One of the standout aspects of Egypt is how clearly defined it is. You can distinctly tell when you are leaving Egypt and entering the edge of Africa, which makes me so happy. Unlike Pantopia, where there is no sign welcoming you, Egypt immerses you with its surroundings. The sand, the ancient Egyptian civilization aesthetic, and the mythology all make you feel like you've stepped into another world. Even the trash cans are themed differently, whereas Pantopia just has a few painted lines. That small yet significant detail changes the entire vibe of the land. Akabar's Adventure Tours was a motion simulator ride open from 1999 to 2007, replacing Questar, which didn't have anything to do with Egypt, and that was there before the Egypt expansion in the mid-1990s. Where I mentioned Akabar before was because of the decorations that were present in Pantopia. Even though the ride is long gone, decorations from it still exist as you enter the Egypt area. They might look a little bit goofy, but they contribute to the theming. Knowing the history behind Akabar's, is it weird that he is present halfway across the park? It can be, but it's great to see his presence still alive in both parts of the park. When you go into the bathrooms in the Egypt area, it just plays along with the aesthetic, archaeological Egyptian vibe, unlike those in Pantopia. The Egypt bathrooms also contain one of the best Easter eggs in Busch Gardens, King Tut's mask, which is a tribute to the former King Tut's tomb walkthrough attraction. King Tut's tomb was an educational attraction opened from 1996 to 2013, replicating the excavation of King Tut's tomb. It was replaced by Cobra's Curse in 2016, but the remnants of it still exist around Cobra's Curse, especially at the ride's exit and the gift shop area. These decorations are a great tribute that keep the ancient Egyptian theme alive. Hands down, Cobra's Curse is one of the best themed coasters in Busch Gardens. Even before entering the queue line, the surrounding architecture and decorations set the tone. The storyline follows the corrupt Snake King Venomous, who cursed anyone attempting to rebuild his destroyed statue. In modern times, Vice Viper International Survey and Excavation archaeologists are uncovering the snake tomb remnants. The effort put into this ride is incredible. There is even a live snake in the queue, adding to the immersion. The lighting and the score inside the queue is well thought out, with different sections serving with different thematic purposes. Parts of the queue are also educational about snakes and tie into Vice's excavation story. The onboard audio enhances the experience, changing slightly from time to time. The Snake King delivers different lines during the first drop, and each train features a unique color scheme. Being a mock spinning coaster, the ride shifts from forward to backward before allowing free spins towards the end, adding to the thrill. Montu is located at the front of the park, visible from Busch Boulevard and McKinley Drive, and for good reason. It's that good of a roller coaster. A huge part about why I love Montu is the theming. This coaster was manufactured by B&M and it debuted in 1996 as the fastest inverted coaster and introduced the first Millennium Loop. The entrance of Montu is designed like an ancient Egyptian temple complex, fitting perfectly within the Egypt area. The area is adorned with ancient Egyptian decorations and even possibly readable hieroglyphics. While I have criticized Pantopia's lack of coherent theming, I can also pose the question, who or what is Montu? Even without a backstory, it's clear that Montu is an ancient, powerful, and intense entity. Egyptian murals near the ride complement King Tut's tomb when that was around. The ride is named after the Egyptian god of war who has the head of a bird. Statues of birds at the entrance reinforce this theme. Montu blends in seamlessly with the area while delivering intense G-forces and whip-like elements. Originally, there was even an alligator enclosure under Montu's first turn, making the experience even wilder. However, due to guests throwing objects in the enclosure, it was removed in 2000. Just like Scorpion though, Montu is a bit out of date when it comes to its decorations. The over-the-shoulder restraints were yellow compared to the black we have today. There was a cool stone entrance sign that added to the immersive experience, especially to what you see in the queue line, and of course, the alligators are gone. The Egypt area uses trenches effectively in its rides, unlike Phoenix Rising. Both Cobra's Curse and Montu feature well-themed trenches, Montu's with stone walls, and Cobra's Curse designed like an excavation site. Phoenix Rising Trench, by comparison, feels like a bit of wasted potential without something like water, pyrotechnics, or even just some proper theming. One aspect that does detract from the theming in both Egypt and Pantopia is the presence of the carnival games and arcade areas. While I understand they generate revenue, they often feel like space fillers rather than part of the immersive experience. Montu's exit is a prime example of this, as the placement of these attractions disrupts the theming, unlike Pantopia, where they are more separated from the main attractions. Aside from the existing Sesame Street IP, Busch Gardens' original theming is actually very impressive. They have done a great job immersing guests into different areas without relying on external IPs. Busch Gardens originated from beer and lush bird gardens, and those elements are still prominently featured in the parks today. You might not notice it at first, but the way Busch Gardens is modernizing the park makes it feel more colorful and warm compared to the muted tones of the Anheuser-Busch era. And that's okay. Even Montu received a repaint, replacing its previous muted blue and yellow with colors that better fit the park's new overall theme. With the upcoming Jambalaya reopening this spring, I believe we'll see more creativity and more original theming coming from Busch Gardens Tampa. But here's the question for you guys. What do you think is the best themed area in Busch Gardens? Is it Pantopia, Egypt, or another one that I didn't extensively cover? Let me know in the comments below. And thank you guys for watching Grace Adventures, where every day is a ride, and may your next adventure be epic.